The purpose of this is to understand how rich our civilization is. We should tell our children that our civilization is one of the richest in the world and we should be proud of it. And after listening to that, I'm sure you will be convinced. India is an ancient civilization with a recorded history of over 7,000 years. More importantly, Indian civilization is the only ancient civilization that survives in living form till date. All other contemporary ancient civilizations such as Egyptian, Mesopotamian, Babylonian, Persian, Greek and Roman exist only in ruins and monuments and not in living form. Even the Chinese civilization does not exist in its ancient version, as it has been considerably modified with the influence of Buddhism. Therefore, there must be some valid reason for the resilience and survival of Indian civilization, while others have been facing demise one after another. For example, in Egypt, the pharaohs were replaced by the Greeks, Greeks by the Romans, Romans by the Christianity, and Christianity by the Islam. On the other hand, Indian civilization was able to absorb Judaism, Christianity, Zoroastrians and Islam while retaining its own identity and originality. It is therefore important to understand the core values of Indian civilization because they constitute the spirit and ethos of India. The first core value, the search for truth. Search for truth is innate in human nature. From the earliest times, humans have looked around and above them and wondered about the world, the universe, and the meaning of life. Thus, the riddles surrounding the origin of the nature and life have been a subject of immense curiosity and fascination since antiquity. At least once in a while in our lifetime, each one of us must have thought with awe and wonder of this magnificent creation surrounding us while gazing at the vast blue sky at night, studded with millions of stars and waning and waxing moon. What is this universe? How did it come into existence? Who regulates it? Was it created by somebody? If so, who created the creator? How did millions of life forms come into existence, each with so different attributes? How do you reproduce themselves to keep the movement of life in perpetuity? Who am I? How did I come into existence? What happens after death? Why some of us are born in extreme poverty and deprivation, while others in palaces surrounded with luxuries of life? These are mind-boggling questions that have been agitating the minds of humanity since times immemorial. Ancient Vedic sages devoted considerable time on these core riddles of our existence to find answers. They did not believe in blind faith, but in realization of the truth. Their answers are enshrined in the Upanishads, the Ramayana, the Mahabharata, the Bhagavad Gita, the Brahma Sutras, and many other ancient scriptures of India. No other religious or scientific writing provides such comprehensive and precise answers to these riddles of life as ancient Indian scriptures do. Moreover, these scriptures also describe the method of realization of these truths by any individual who wishes to do so. Each one of us can realize them. On the other hand, most other scriptures advocate blind faith, bringing the search for truth to a complete halt. The search for truth is the first and the foremost of all core values of Indian civilizational ethos, and that is why it is called Vedic civilization, or the civilization based on knowledge or truth. Vedic means knowledge or truth. Profound science. No truth can be established unless it is based on scientific foundation. Therefore, the ancient Indian writings go into precise science of the fundamental questions posed in the earlier paragraph. They explain the origin of the nature and life and millions of different species in life form. They also explain their functioning and their eventual dissolution. In this sense, these writings are a masterpiece on mathematics, physics, chemistry, and biology. For example, how did this nature came into being, the whole universe, the physical nature? They precisely explain that from the pure spirit, how the nature came into being, how the first element, Akash, or the empty space, the space came into being, and from Akash, the air, the Vayu came into being. From air, fire was formed. From fire, water was formed. And from water, earth was formed. Even the modern science accepts part of it. When you see, they tell you that earth was a ball of fire in the beginning, then it froze and became water, and then the water became earth. That's what you must have studied in science. So they accept part of it, the modern science as well. All material objects which you see around this world, they are made of the combination of these five elements. There's nothing but these five elements make the entire physical universe we see. This has been explained in Vedanta with great detail. They also explain that these five elements, each one of them have their one attribute. The Akash has the attribute of word and sound. The air has the attribute of touch. Fire has the attribute of light and heat. Water has the attribute of taste. And earth has the attribute of smell. These five attributes are directly related to our five senses of perception. And that's how there is a direct correlation between the physical nature and human being. Similarly, these writings explain how the life forms came into being, how each life form behaves in a particular fashion. They also tell you the division of time, which is such a scientific explanation given partly in Bhagavad Puran, starting from 8 by 13,500 of a second, right up to 311 trillion and 40 billion years, which is the 100-year life of Brahma. They explain, there's no other scientific literature which explains this. Our scriptures have been telling from times immemorial that one kalpa is 4.32 billion years, which is the life of earth. The modern science accepts this fact today that the life of earth is 4.32 billion years. Earlier they used to say the life of earth is only 6,000 years, which was based on some biblical writing. Similarly, they explain the human constitution, the human body, the human senses, the human mind, the ego, the pranic energy within the body, the human soul. Each one has been explained with great detail. I cannot go into the details for shortage of time. The next element is manifest and non-manifest. It is called Vyakt and Avyakt in Sanskrit. The Vedic writings explain both the physical and non-physical. The knowledge of the material and manifest world is called avidya, and knowledge of the non-manifest world is called vidya. The gross physical objects can be grasped and perceived by our sense organs. The gross, I can see the building, the tables, the chairs, the lights, which are physical objects we can see. But when the physical objects become subtle and subtle, you cannot perceive them with our sense organs. For example, fire and air is more difficult to perceive than earth and water. And when you talk about Akash, this empty space, you cannot perceive because it has no color, no size, no smell. The science cannot even define it because there is no attribute at all which is visible, which can be analyzed and expressed. Similarly, in the human body, with our sense organs, we can see the body and the sense organs, but we cannot see the mind. It becomes subtle, and you cannot understand where mind is. As soon as the things become more and more subtle, our sense organs fail. If we look at the composition of the universe, physical objects including all the planets and stars constitute only 0.1% of the total universe. 99.9% of the universe is nothing but vast empty space. And empty space is physical. It's physical, it is not non-physical, it is manifest. So we cannot even understand with the modern science 0.01% of the entire universe. There is no question of understanding the whole universe, which has been explained very profoundly in Vedic writings. Vedic writings go beyond the physical manifestation. Akash is physical, as I mentioned to you. Mind is also physical. They go beyond that, what is totally non-physical. They explain that with very lucid and profound description. This has been defined as Brahma in Vedic language. Brahma, not Brahma. Brahma is the first created being. Brahma is the one which is totally non-manifest power in the Vedic parlance. According to the Taittiriya Upanishad, whatever reality is in existence by which all the rest subsists is Brahma. He is an eternal behind all instabilities and a constant which supports all mutations. He is hidden in all appearances and forms. He is a male in a male, female in a female, child in a child, bird in a bird, and animal in an animal. In this sense, Brahma is akin to space, which turns into a house, a playground, a shopping mall, a factory, a theatre, or a stadium, depending on the structure and use. Space exists in all these forms as well as outside these forms. Similarly, Brahma exists in all forms and appearances as well as outside of them. As he is self-generated, he can neither be created nor be destroyed. He is the smallest of the small and hence beyond sense perception. He is also the largest of the large and therefore infinite. He is static but moves faster than the fastest. As the spider sends forth and spreads its web and then withdraws it back, all manifestations emanate from him, the Brahma, and then dissolve back into him. Thus, Brahma is all-pervasive supreme reality. Bhagavad Gita also says the same thing, that as the entire universe is pervaded by Brahma in the same way as ice is pervaded by water. Ice is nothing but water. The same way universe is nothing but the Brahma. There are no writings in this world that go as deep as the Upanishads to explain the nature and functioning of the manifest and the non-manifest. Divinity everywhere, coming from there. Thus, in the Vedic parlance, God is not a superhuman sitting somewhere outside regulating the universe, creating stars and planets, and rewarding and punishing people, sending them to heaven and the hell. Instead, the Vedas state that the universe is merely a physical manifestation of God in various names and forms. It is something like the ocean and the waves. Waves have no separate existence of their own. They arise from the ocean and then they dissolve back into the same ocean and cannot exist independent of the ocean. In similar to constant flow of the thoughts appearing in the human mind and then dissolving back into the human mind, the thoughts and mind cannot be separate from each other. Similarly, the waves and the ocean cannot be separate from each other. Same way, this universe and Brahma cannot be separate from each other. Similarly, take the phenomenon of dream and the dreamer. During the course of the dream, thousands of objects are projected on the mind by the same mind, creating a dreamer and a dream world. Every night you see the dream, the mind projects and the mind is also accepting the projection. It becomes dreamer and dream world both. During this state, one fiber of the mind becomes dreamer while the another one becomes dream objects. Once the dream's state is over, the dreamer and the dream dissolve into the same, completely wiping out the duality created during the dream state. However, this truth cannot be realized so long as you are in the state of dream. The moment you wake up, you realize the truth. Similarly, the omnipresence of the Almighty can be realized through meditation and detachment. This was done by the Vedic seers who revealed that the whole universe is nothing but divine, as ice is nothing but water. Essentially, it means one in all and all in one, or Isavashyamidam Sarvam, that is what Isavasya Upanishad says, meaning that the entire universe is pervaded by the Almighty. Both the physical world and the living species are manifest form of the Almighty. Since the divinity exists everywhere, we can worship Him in any form, anywhere, and that is why in Hinduism we have the freedom to worship the Almighty in any form, anywhere, birds and trees and stones and whatever you feel like you can worship. And we consider everybody else as divine as well. World as single family. Vedas do not pronounce any sectarian approach like many other religions do. They consider the whole world as one single family. Therefore, universal brotherhood and harmonious living form an integral part of the Indian spirit. Thousands of years ago, the Vedic seers pronounced, this is a quote from Rig Veda, as the different streams having their sources in different places, all mingle their water in the sea. O Lord, the different paths which men take through different tendencies, various though they appear, crooked or straight, they all lead to the Thee. The others, Ekam Sat Vipra Bahuta Badanti. This is a very well-known phrase in Veda, that the truth is one and the wise men say it in different ways and different forms. Then there is another sloka which I have recited in the past is Ayam Nij Paroveti Ganna Lagu Chepsam Udar Charita Nam Tu Vasudeva Kutumbakam, that this is mine, this is yours. This kind of thinking is for those who have very mean mentality. Udar Charitanam, those who have very generous thinking, higher thinking, elevated thinking, for them Vasudeva Kutumbakam, the whole earth is one single family. Now oneness. Veda goes a step further and pronounce that entire universe is one single entity, harmoniously interconnected, like the space, air and energy. All physical entities and the living species constitute one single harmonious entity forming this universe. If we observe natural processes surrounding us, we will find that a seed grows into a trunk, root, branches, leaves and fruits and so on without anybody adding any part or any part from outside. This tree grows on its own. You put a seed, all the different variations come out of it. Nobody adds anything from outside. The same way the universe grows on its own from the Almighty. All these parts constitute one single entity, harmoniously interconnected. If we look at human body, it also grows on its own from inside. It doesn't just, nobody comes and puts our eyes and ears and hands and feet. It automatically grows from inside, creating so many organs and systems harmoniously interconnected without any interference from outside. Similarly, the universe has grown in diverse form from the womb of the Almighty. How can the universe be an exception to this general law of nature applicable to everywhere? And that is why in Sanskrit it is called Brahmand. Brahmand is the egg of the Brahman. Therefore, this ancient Indian dictum also pronounces a harmonious relationship between humans, other species of life and Mother Nature. Respect for nature and other species of life form an integral part of Indian spirit. That's why in India there are traditions of worshipping mountains, lakes, rivers, trees, birds and animals which are alien to Western society. Today, due to greed for consumption, the Mother Nature has been converted into a dumping ground. Human aggression against nature and other species of life has crossed all boundaries. This will naturally result in ecological disasters of unimaginable magnitude. Based on the truth of oneness and harmonious living with nature, ancient Indian sages taught us the principles of austerity in living and non-violence and non-aggression against other species of life. These are very core values of Indian civilization. They told us to see the self in the entire creation so that we do not damage our surroundings. This is what Isavasya Upanishad's first verse says. Isavasyamidam sarvam yattincha jagatyam jagat ten takten vunjitha ma grat krasya swanidham. Whatever conscious and non-conscious exists in this universe is nothing but the manifestation of the Brahman, the Almighty, and it is owned by Him. Keeping this in mind, continue to live and enjoy in the spirit of renounced detachment. Since nothing belongs to you, do not have lust and attachment. This is the first verse of Isavasya Upanishad. There is another Sanskrit sloka which is very commonly quoted. It's Matrivat Pardaresu Pardravyesu Lostvat Atmavat Sarvbhutesu Ye Paschati Se Pandita. That those who look others' wife as their mothers and others' wealth as a pile of stone, and those who see everybody else like one's own self, you see everybody else like one's own self, they are the wise people. If you see everybody else like your own self, how can you harm anybody else? And that is the spirit of India. Morality, ethics and relationships. Ancient Indian sages meditated profoundly on these issues. We can find such debates in many ancient Indian writings. However, what is written in Mahabharata on these issues is unparalleled in the history of mankind. All possible human conditions have been covered in depth with arguments and explanations. Profound conversations on human relationships and duties and ethics with Krishna, Bhishma, Vidur, Shakuni, Yudhishthira, Duryodhana, Karna and Arjun cover a vast expanse of our day-to-day dilemmas. After profound arguments on these issues, ancient Indian sages concluded that ethics, morality and duties are circumstantial. They are not absolute. They are impacted by the place, time and the context, and of course the intention of the doer, and hence they cannot be absolute in nature. These must be decided by the individual concerned, taking into account all the circumstances with good intentions and beliefs. Moreover, they cannot be commanded. Answer must come from within. For example, even after a very long conversation with Arjuna of 700 verses of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna asked Arjuna whether he was convinced or not of his duty to fight against the Kauravas. He was not commanded, but was asked to decide himself. Today, many religious scriptures are interpreted as edicts or commandments without relation to the place, time and context. Such interpretations play havoc with mankind, as what could be ethical in certain place, time and context could be completely unethical elsewhere. As we say sometimes that one man's food could be another man's poison. Now I'll talk about one small paragraph on the contribution to the world of Indian heritage. There are many more truths that can be shared with you, but for the constraint of time. However, I would like to mention very briefly that contribution of Indian civilization to the world has been immense to say the least. Starting with Sanskrit, the mother language of Indo-European language family, mathematics, including numericals, which are often called Hindu-Arabic numericals, they traveled from India to Europe via Arab worlds. The invention of zero, astronomy, the planetary science, scientific explanation of the universe and all it consists of, eternal medical science called Ayurveda, yogic practices, gastronomy based on science of life, architecture, music, dances and so on. This is what Indian civilization has contributed to the world. You name any civilization which has done so much contribution to the world heritage. We are therefore progeny of a very wise ancestors who discovered the truth and revealed them to the mankind thousands of years back in time. Since these are eternal truths, Indian ethos based on the Vedic knowledge are also called as Sanatan Dharma because they are eternal. Before I conclude, let me read out the following three quotes from three eminent and very well respected Western philosophers, not Indian, Western. The first one is from Henry David Thoreau. I think you must have heard of his name, a well-known US philosopher. Whenever I have read any part of the Vedas, I have felt that some unearthly and unknown light illuminated me. In the great teaching of the Vedas, there is no touch of the sectarianism. It is of the ages, climes and nationalities, and is the royal road for attainment of the great knowledge. When I am at it, I feel that I am under the sprinkled heavens of a summer night. This is what Henry David Thoreau explained years ago. This another one is Will Durant, American historian. India was the motherland of our race, and Sanskrit the mother of Europe's languages. She was the mother of our philosophy, mother through the Arabs of much of our mathematics, mother through the Buddha, the ideals embodied in Christianity, mother through the village community of self-government and democracy. This is what he said. And now the Mark Twain. India is the cradle of human race, the birthplace of human speech, the mother of history, the grandmother of legend, and the great-grandmother of tradition. Our most valuable and most instructive material in the history of man are treasured up in India only. Thank you very much.